Cat Women of the Moon 70th anniversary, which is almost a misnomer, as every 3D movie from 1953 is experiencing its 70th anniversary. But like House of Wax and Creature from the Black Lagoon, this movie has had such a large cultural impact that it probably deserves having anniversary editions. Despite being an absolute bottom feeder of the golden era 3D movies, Wiki lists at least 5 copycat movies, one of which is a direct remake. It was lampooned in the famous 80s sketch comedy Amazon Woman on the Moon as the stereotypical late-night television filler movie. There's a creepy 90s era pop song called Stay that was also inspired by this. The Blu-ray is brought to us by the ultra boutique label and YouTube channel Variety Films, who offers a whole library of various showcase reels, self-produced documentary, and as such as we have here, repackaged public domain titles. And at first glance, I noticed the glaring baked-in ghosting and wondered if this was perhaps extracted from an anaglyph copy, as was done with the extras also included on this disc. But as it turns out, this is not the case. Variety was kind enough to answer my question and explained,
"No, the Anaglyph VHS had a lot of 2D shots. This was from a field sequential DVD released as a pack with other titles, and was uploaded to YouTube at one point, but it's gone now. Another upload was done last year by someone else, but it's even worse quality. Hard to believe, I know, ha ha ha. So less detail to work with. I used the original upload which I had saved at the time."
On further investigation, I found that a stereo print is known to exist in a collection of a recently deceased collector. While alive, he publicly derided the existence of a public domain, and apparently his undisclosed price for using the print reflected this sentiment. The condition of the print is unknown, but 70 years is considered by some a maximum lifespan for film, and that assumes it was kept under optimal storage conditions. Now, this is not merely a copy of the DVD version, but both an upscale and various fixes to keep the frames aligned and synchronized. As such, you will notice the movie occasionally skips by a fraction of a second here and there. And also included on this disc is a 2-dimensional version without such editing. Although the flat version looks better, I couldn't help but notice the sound seemed better on the 3D version. It's still a bit of a challenge to watch. The first time I put it in, it was late at night, and my tired eyes did not appreciate it very much. On a different day, when I was more rested, I found it far easier to digest. Fortunately, the movie, like most 50s 3D, is fairly still. That helps the eyes adjust to each new shot. It has that watching a play vibe and looks like it was filmed at the community theater. Not a lot of fast action or fancy shots. I think there was one moment where something sort of came toward the camera, and that might have even been accidental. There are still some interesting stereo moments. The windows on their spacesuits seem to slightly distort their faces, so you get this real interesting fishbowl effect. And also, here's a scene where they're putting out a fire by spraying randomly in all directions, but it gives us some fun 3D smoke, and the ladder in the foreground gives us something to judge how far and deep the haze is. You might say it almost ties the whole effect together. Also, they place the various moon formations in a style similar to what you might find in a cartoon or an old 80s video game, with foreground, middle, and backdrops. Although it becomes obvious that these are getting reused as they walk on, it makes for a fun presentation that gives us a nice stereo frame for the action. There is some garbage, too, that doesn't appear to be the fault of any film quality. Notice the bizarre misalignment of the stars outside the window. Now, this, at a glance, looks like this would have been a practical effect, but the only way to create that level of stereo awful would be to have it matted out and superimpose the stars with as little attention to detail as possible. Apparently, this movie was supposed to be about 6 or so minutes longer, but it ran out of money and was arbitrarily shut down before filming had complete, so they just had to make do with what they had. Though story-wise, it wasn't as dumb as its reputation would have had me believe. If you were to replace Moon with Distant Planet, then tropes about breathable air, giant bugs, and an ultra-advanced society, really that's almost standard science fiction fare. And push it a little in the future, and even the gravity inside the spaceship isn't far removed from the Enterprise bridge, although the logic of having seatbelts on a loose office chair is a bit lost on me. Still, I found myself intrigued by the ESP psychic powers plot point. Creating dissension and confusion among the crew in the second half, I found genuinely interesting. And this could have been a really good haunted mansion in space type movie. While searching for information on the film, I happened to read one blog that remarked that this and other sci-fi movies featuring women was a response to men feeling threatened or replaced by women due to their post-war increase in the workforce. I disagree. This is no different than tales of mermaids leading sailors to their deaths. It is an idea probably as old as humankind. I see the ridiculous title as something akin to an old carnival banner that promises to show something with lots of women to get young boys excited. However, be warned, there are no cats in this movie. But there's bonus content on the Blu-ray. Now, Variety Films claims this reel of Queen Elizabeth during the time of her coronation is unrelated, save for the year it was filmed. But I think there's a secret message here. Maybe Catwoman is based on a true story, and they did eventually make it to Earth and assume the head of the Commonwealth. I see what you're trying to communicate to us, Jonathan. Very clever. The footage was taken from Anaglyph source material, and you will notice the shades of gray are often vastly different from eye to eye. Surprisingly, though, my eyes didn't seem to mind that color difference all that much, and I was able to watch it quite easily. And finally, the Blu-ray gives us some 3D comic book pages, also from an Anaglyph source that have been reformatted to take advantage of 3D Blu-ray. This, I think, was my favorite part of the whole presentation. My only complaint is I was enjoying the music chosen for the presentation, but had to keep pausing to read the story. I think we get about 10 seconds per page, which just wasn't enough for my slow reading. Also, I think it would have been fun if the camera zoomed into the panels and slowly scrolled across. Maybe others would have found that annoying, though. The cowboy comics were far and away the more elaborately created. They had many, if not most elements, custom drawn to each eye. Imagine the skill of the artist to draw the same thing twice at a slightly different angle. Actually, on one of the extras on the Hobbit movie, they show how their storyboards were also in Anaglyph. And the crazy thing with The Hobbit is, if I remember right, they even had two separate artists drawing each eye at the same time. Just amazing skill that I can't even imagine having. Now, the funny pages were far less sophisticated. It looked like they drew a couple of layers and just moved them when they photographed the plate. I wonder if they ever took these and produced Viewmaster or Photo Viewer editions of them. Well, Variety lives up to its name and provides a quirky but very interesting 3D disc. I look forward to seeing more.